I'm 92 years old, and I need to tell you something that took me most of my life to see clearly. I wasn't the author of my own life. For the better part of 7 decades, I was a well-behaved guest in a story someone else had already written. I had the house, the children who reflected well on me, the reputation as someone who could be counted on, who never dropped a ball, who held everything together beautifully. And I stood at the end of it and realized that almost none of it had been mine. Not really. Not in the way that matters. That is the invisible truth nobody warned me about. Not death, not regret, and the abstract. This specific thing that you can spend your entire life being everything everyone needed you to be and never once asked whether any of it was actually yours to carry. You're probably in the waiting room right now. You've convinced yourself that your real life begins after the next thing, after the children are through school, after the relationship is more settled, after you've finally earned a little space for yourself. You're holding your breath for a moment that is never going to arrive. And every year you wait, the waiting gets a little more automatic, a little more invisible. That's the part nobody warns you about. Not that the waiting is painful, that it stops feeling like waiting at all and starts feeling like just life. If something in you recognizes that, hit the like button. Not for me, just as an honest acknowledgement to yourself that you can see it. Here is what I watched happen to the women around me. The ones who gave everything, who ran the households and held the careers and managed the children and kept the peace and smiled through the exhaustion and told themselves it was temporary. I watched women my age reach their 60s, having succeeded by every measure available to them and having become, in the process, complete strangers to themselves. They were capable, Lord, they were capable. They just had no idea who they were underneath the capability. I retired at 67 thinking I had finally arrived, thinking that time was the thing I had been missing and now I had it and everything would open up. It didn't, because I brought the same brain into my retirement. The same reflexes. I filled my days with useful things. I joined committees. I organized things for other people. I made myself indispensable to my grandchildren's schedules the way I had made myself indispensable to my children's. It took me another 15 years to understand that the problem was never my calendar. It was my identity. I didn't know how to be a person without someone needing something from me. Save this, because what I'm about to say is the thing your autopilot is going to try to erase by tomorrow morning. Your usefulness will be forgotten in 5 years. Your presence will be felt for generations. The 20-minute conversation with your daughter where you were actually listening, not composing your response, not half reading something on your phone, not managing the moment, actually listening, that lands somewhere in her that no achievement of yours will ever reach. The afternoon you spent doing something you loved that could not be explained or justified to anyone who asked. The moments where you were still enough to actually feel your own life passing through you. Those are the things, those have always been the things I know how that sounds. I would have smiled and moved on at 40. But I'm not telling you this as philosophy. I'm telling you this as a woman who has watched enough people reach the end to know what they talk about. And nobody talks about how efficiently they managed everything. Nobody talks about how rarely they let anyone down. They talk about the moments where they were brave enough to be present. And they talk about the moments where they weren't and wish quietly they could have them back. If you want to keep having conversations that go this deep, that take your actual life seriously rather than just your obligations, subscribe. That is the only reason this exists. Now here is the part that took me longest to sit with. Because understanding the trap is one thing. Getting out of it is another. The reason most women can't simply decide to stop, can't just choose to put themselves down and step back into their own life, is that the selflessness started so early they don't remember what was underneath. The script was handed to them before they were old enough to read it critically. Be good, be helpful, don't take up too much space. Make sure everyone's all right before you ask about yourself. And by the time you're old enough to question it, you've been running it so long it feels like virtue. Feels like just who you are. It isn't who you are. I know that because I found out at 80 what I actually was underneath 60 years of being needed. And she was still there, quieter than I remembered, a little wary, slightly amazed anyone had come looking, but intact, still recognizably herself. You don't have to wait until 80. That is the entire point. The woman who truly understands this life isn't the one with the most glowing eulogy. It's the one who can sit alone in a room with no one to look after, no task waiting, no one who needs her, and feel completely whole. Not because she finally did enough to deserve stillness, because she stopped needing to earn it. Think of a woman you know whose eyes have that quality of being somewhere else even when she's right in front of you, who is always just slightly behind herself managing the next thing before she's finished feeling the current one. Send her this. Just send it. She'll know why. There is something underneath everything I've described today that I haven't fully reached. The reason the performance starts so early, what puts it in place before you have any say, and how you actually dismantle it once you can see it. That is a longer and harder conversation. That is what comes next. And if today reached you, that one will go further. I'm 92. I was a guest in my own life for a very long time. And I'm telling you that plainly, not from a distance, not as a lesson, but as a woman who lived it and came out the other side and found something worth finding. Because I want you to have more time than I did. The door to your actual life is not behind the next milestone. It's not waiting for conditions to improve. It's here. It has always been here. Tell me in the comments, what is the one thing you do that has no justification, no usefulness, no explanation that will satisfy anyone who asks why, and that makes you feel for a few minutes completely like yourself? Write it out, because I think when you see what other women write, you'll realize that the most human moments in all of our lives look almost identical. And that is worth knowing.